I called him a master garden designer because for the who's who of homes, and I mean, we're talking mansions up and down the East Coast. You did a lot of the landscape design for these amazing places. And so you truly know how to put it together. And you're very picky about what you bring. So these are the Reblooming, we'll talk about that, German irises. And these are going to be gorgeous. You're going to get 3 plants, one in that apricot silk, one in Immortality, which is white, and then one in Victoria Falls, which is that beautiful blue-purple kind of look that you see right behind the white one. All right, so first of all, I don't know much about irises, so tell me a little bit about what's special about these.
It's an old-fashioned perennial that you see in a lot of beautiful old paintings.
Yeah.
And it's just got that classic look. They're also fragrant. And they typically, bloom in the spring. They're beautiful. In Mississippi, they bloomed around Easter time, and that's when we would get our pictures made with them. And that's the kind of look you could expect. Guess what? These do the same thing again in the fall.
Yeah.
That's what I love. You've got flowers going on in the spring, flowers going on in the fall, and in between, when the old-fashioned ones, their foliage was dying down and it looked kind of like a Halloween display, but it was just July.
Right.
These are sending up new foliage then because they're getting ready to support the blooms that are going to come in the fall. So it's always fresh looking. It's always sculptural looking, even when they're not in bloom. In between those blooms, the foliage is so beautiful. In a well-drained area, in full sun, and no mulch. They don't like mulch. And let me just get down here. I'll just show you what I'm going to ship out to you, because I'm shipping you out in the pot. And they'll be labeled so you'll know exactly which ones they are. But you're getting 3 different ones, well-rooted, easy to plant. And you see that little root right there, that little part of the plant? Don't cover that up. That likes to be exposed. Look like a piece of a sweet potato. But don't mulch it at all. And I typically plant mine in a dedicated iris bed.
Yeah.
So it's unto itself, so it can do its beautiful thing, and you'll enjoy that.
It's almost like it's its own queen, it doesn't want to share the wealth with anyone. Here's the other thing I want to mention. We've already sold 6,000 sets here on QVC. All of these, how many left? Fewer than 1,000 sets left. And here's one thing to understand. We're at the middle of March, and actually a little past the middle of March. What we have is all we can get. There's no more coming in. I mean, this is the end. This is getting towards the end of our season. But remember, it's not shipped out until it's time in your part of the country to plant it. Then it ships to you. Let's talk one other thing about this. Is that, so you're telling me that the flowers come on in the spring, and how long will those flowers last first?
The irises will bloom for 4 to 6 weeks.
Wow.
And they're very fragrant, so you'll enjoy that.
Yeah,
and also they're what I call an in-between flower. Your daffodils have finished and your summer annuals haven't really started.
Yeah.
So it's one of those in-between things. You really notice it because there's literally all the flowering shrubs from spring have finished, and the ones for summer haven't started. And there's that apricot silk, which is one of the most sought after colors. Wow. And I love that. Though, see the orange beard down in the center of that?
Yeah.
But nice soft apricot, very fragrant. The foliage is, maybe 20 inches tall, and the blooms about 8 inches above that.
Okay.
Immortality, which is the solid white one, was the first reblooming iris to ever come out. That's what everything else got bred off of.
Wow.
They noticed this, and then this is how we got all the others. But beautiful snow white. And it, to me, is the best of all the rebloomers, because I love seeing that white blooms coming on in the fall because it looks hopeful. And then Victoria Falls, which is this perfect blue lavender with the ruffled edges to it, and just a fabulous iris. And this is a traditional color. When people think of iris, they do think of that color.
True.
And the iris, by the way, it's my favorite of all perennials.
Wow.
All of them.
So here's a quick question, because we're giving everyone 3 of these, and you showed us what one will look like. How kind of tall and wide, like how far should we plant them in between? Because I'm thinking people might want to know, should I get 2 sets or 3 sets? What should I get?
I plant mine about 2 feet apart, and
Okay.
then they will
Wow.
fill in because the rhizomes, the root will spread out
Yeah.
some. And so you have a dedicated iris bed. I've got mine planted in front of some conifers in the full sun in a well-drained area,
Right.
and they just carry on there. They're so handsome, and the foliage is so good looking.
Yeah.
In my book, I've got pictures of the garden where they're not even blooming, but the foliage looks great because it looks kind of like yucca foliage. It gives you that structure, it gives you that texture that make
Right.
those sorts of things make a picture look really good. It's
Right.
not always about the flowers.
Right.
Sometimes it's also about the texture.
And especially then it's going to rebloom, what, in
Yes.
September?
Well, some of them will start blooming at the end of August, and
Okay.
some of them will bloom at the end of October. So it's
Wow.
a
Depending upon where you
long,
live.
long period. Yes, it's all spread out like that, and they're extremely cold hardy. You see these in gardens all over Aspen, Colorado,
Oh
and some of the
boy.
biggest iris growers are in Florida.
Huh.
So you've got a really, really, really wide range, about as wide of a range as you would have on, say, daylilies. These are
Hmm.
the two toughest of the blooming perennials
Wow.
that I know of, and that's why everybody has had them for so long. They
Right.
last.
They
And the
last.
apricot silk, whew,
And here's
beautiful.
that apricot silk is gorgeous. Here's one other thing that I think a lot of us would want to know. It is deer resistant. And so because of the fragrance and all, the deer are not thrilled with these. So that's great because you don't want them
Yes,
munching on these. So
I
I
won't
think
have
that's
it.
important, but super easy to grow, right?
Yes, absolutely easy. Everybody's grandmother had these, but they were the one-time bloomers. This time you get it twice, which is just fabulous. But I
Right.
think aside from just the double blooms, is that you have the beautiful foliage in between. The
Hmm.
foliage on the old-fashioned ones did look terrible in the middle of the summer, and it's like, oh, I'm not supposed to cut it back yet. I've got to wait till it does this. You don't have to
Right.
worry. It's always looking fresh and
Wow.
lovely.
I tell you, irises to me are one of the most elegant flowers. You told me it was your first favorite perennial. Look at that against that white fence.
Yes,
Wow.
and Monet, the painter, liked
Yes.
them too.
Oh,
So
yeah. Absolutely.
I
Look at
love them,
that.
and the deer will not touch them. But when they're out like that in rows, just fabulous.
Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got more yet to come. Stay on the line for that in 82385. And again, they will ship to you. You will get them in the white, the apricot, and the beautiful blue, as we call bluish purple. Now, here's
Yeah.
something else. We're going to go right to the Invincible hydrangea plant. Now, this one always blooming in pink.